Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Natalie in Renaissance for our third episode. So, in the last two episodes, I discussed one's personal gifts, recognizing inherent value that you have, and also making room for your gifts and making plans to support them. So, there's a concept that goes in tandem with that I want to discuss today. Something that has really made a difference for me the past couple months, and something that I know will be of value to you. And that is the idea of your self-image and its impact on performance. Now, I love the word performance. It is so special to me because of my training and my background as a musician and as a teacher. And for me, it's an opportunity to share. It's an opportunity to share something I've worked on. It's an opportunity to share an experience with me in a way that no one else can. And so that is what performance means to me. But I know for others, performance is not a great word. It can bring a lot of stress. It can immediately spark cortisol in one's body. It can be very outcome based, very product oriented, and it can just bring to mind things that are not a place of comfort for a lot of people. When I was a full-time student in an academic setting for over 6 years, I was a music major and later a grad student with an assistantship in a performance environment. 80% of what I needed to do was performance based. It was day to day, part of my job, part of what I signed up for was being a performer. And to me, that for some reason, I interpreted that to mean making other people happy, making my teacher happy, making my boss happy, making my supervisor happy, getting good reviews and feedback from my students. And that was just part of the deal. I thought, being in the academic system and in the academic structure. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I think in academia, there are expectations and rules, and especially when you have an assistantship, right? There's so much to be grateful for, and so many people are trying to help you. But I wish someone would have told me a long time ago that performance is not about making other people happy. In fact, it really is quite the opposite. Performance is really about what you think as the individual who is performing. It's about developing ownership and bringing the pizzazz that only you can bring to the party. It's bringing your gifts, bringing your spirit to the party. And it's a big part of, bringing it to your work, right? As an entrepreneur, figuring out what I can do, how can I do it best? That is performance. Being the best friend that I can be, being the best sister, the best daughter, right? That is a part of performance. As a creative, right? Thinking about the designs you want to make, thinking about inspiration, that is performance. And in a business setting, in a friendship setting, that is what people want. People want the real you. People want to experience what it's like being your client. They want to experience you. And so I have to share that one of the best performances that I ever had, it followed a very, very bad dress rehearsal. And I got all this feedback about things that I needed to work on. And it just did not put me in the best mood. I think especially for dress rehearsals, they are so close to the performance day, and there's only so much you can do. And so I was in a very sassy mood, in rebel mode, and I got dressed up. I had my hair done, and as soon as I walked out on stage, I had this attitude that I did not care what anyone thought. I was just gonna do it how I could do it, and if you didn't like it, too bad. And I am just laughing about it now because I ended up giving one of the best performances I've ever given in my life. Everything was so confident. I really did not care if I made a mistake. And yes, I did have mistakes. But just the confidence level that I had in that moment, it was exciting. It was so much fun to play. And just having that attitude that I don't care what you think because this is what I think it really was one of the best performances I'd ever had, and I knew it. And that was definitely communicated in my performance. And later, I was told, "Well, why didn't you bring that to the dress rehearsal?" And it was just really funny. But I really have not forgotten that, and that is because I knew in that moment 100% what I wanted, and I was 100% committed to showing up and doing that. And that is what performance is all about. And I'm an integrator, and I'm going to talk about this idea not only as a musician, but also as a teacher, and also bringing in a couple examples from personal life, because nothing in life, as I've said before, nothing in life is disconnected. And especially when it comes down to this idea of oneself, one's gifts, and one's performance, everything is connected. And so I want to go back to something that I mentioned before, which was, me showing up in an academic setting and, relying on other people for validation. And that is kind of opposite to this rebel mode that I was in. When I got on stage under the lights, really working hard. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I would say that this idea of people pleasing and this idea in my head of linking performance to people pleasing, what I realized about that mentality is that relying on people pleasing skills, making other people happy to give you progress, to get you further in life, and it could be at work or at home, but what it really means is that there is a vacuum inside of you. You've lost yourself and you haven't taken the time to get to know yourself, and what you are looking for in other people is what you should be providing for yourself by yourself. And so this work on finding your gifts, of recognizing your value, this work is linked to what is called your self-image. And I've been doing a lot of reading about this, and I just think it is such a key element, not only to performance, but also in just living one's life. And so your self-image is really your blueprint that contains your beliefs about yourself. And it has nothing to do with comparison. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It doesn't depend on anyone else. It is self-contained. It is the beliefs that you have about what you can do and about who you are. Now, being around other people, right, living in the world, other people can influence us and influence our self-image. But when it comes down to it, it is choices that we make and the beliefs that we have adopted about ourselves. Now, what is important about the self-image or the self-concept is that everything you do in life, all your mannerisms, all the choices that you make, the way you interact with others, the way you show up, it all comes down to that blueprint that you have inside of yourself, of who you believe yourself to be and what you can see yourself being able to do. And I'll go back to my time in music school, and my teacher would say, I was playing a passage or working on something new, and my teacher would say, say something here. This is an opportunity. What are you going to say? And what she was basically saying is that I want you to make a choice here, and I want to know what you're going to choose. And she really pushed me, and I'm so grateful to her for all the time that she invested in me, because this was not easy work either for me or for her, I'm sure. But she really pushed me to develop my own thoughts about things and developing confidence to say something. And even if other people don't like it, so what? You're the one playing the piece, you're the one learning it. And if you're not making the most of it, if you're not putting, the way that only you can play this, you're wasting your time and you're wasting other people's time. And building this healthy musical concept, that is what being a musician performance was all about. Because anyone can learn notes, anyone can play a piece, but being a performer and bringing that level of intention, that level of artistic choice, it's not easy work. It takes so much more energy than just learning the notes or memorizing it. Being a performer with something to share, it's so difficult, but it's so valuable. And so that is one of the big takeaways from my time. And there are millions of takeaways, and I'm still understanding and processing everything that I really have learned, being in music school, being a performer, because I'm still reaping the benefits. But people think a lot about concert pianists. And when people buy a ticket to see these people, they really aren't going to hear the piece. They're going to hear a person who has taken the time, made the effort to really develop how they think something should go, to really make people feel this emotional feeling. And that is what makes fabulous performers, is people who are gutsy and confident in their choices, and they really don't care who agrees with them. And that is what makes them magnetic. And you're spellbound because of that level of confidence. And that goes down to the self-concept that they have built into their pieces, or that self-concept that is showing up in their music, in their playing. Now, while I'm sharing my background as a musician, as a performer, performance is not linked to this one area of life. It's not just linked to the fine arts or people who are musicians, people who are on stage. Performance is the way that you show up in every area of life. It's the way you interact with your friends. It's the way that you work. It's the way that you make your meals. It's the way that you go on vacations, right? And it's because of this idea of the self-image. Your performance is based on your self-image, on your self-concept, because the performance is just the outward reflection and the expression of that inner world, of that self-image. And the more you work on your self-image, on your inner self, the beliefs about yourself, the more you can contribute to life, the better your performance will be. And that is what I want for myself as an artist, as a performer, as an entrepreneur. And it's also the attitude that I want to build in my personal students and share with everyone that I know. And as most of you know, I love travel. Solo travel, to be specific. And when I share my experiences or my stories, so many people say, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't see myself doing that. And now that I've done all this research, I understand that that belief about themselves is not a part of their current self-image. It's not a part of the beliefs that they currently have about themselves. And I was listening to a podcast, and someone said that you can only build up to the edge of your self-image. And I was like, whoa, that's so true. If you don't believe that you can do something, if you don't believe that that is a part of who you could be, you won't get there because you can't see yourself doing it. And what I've realized about my experience as a performer is that my comfort, and this was something that was built. I'll do an episode about this, but my confidence in playing, my confidence as a musician was built. And people talk about 10,000 hours of mastery, and I'm sure that I'm somewhere way beyond that because of the time needed, the dedication. Like, it was very hard work. But that current comfort that I have as a solo musician has translated into the fact that I'm comfortable with solo travel. I'm comfortable working for myself. I'm comfortable doing my own thing because, again, nothing in life is disconnected. Performance is related to the idea of one's self-image, of one's self-concept. And if you want to improve performance, change your performance, change the way you're showing up, change something in your life, you have to start with changing your self-image. Everything is connected, and that's why this topic is so, so important. Your self-image is the underpinning of everything in your life, and this information is gold for someone like me who is an artist, a performer, a teacher, because this is the most important thing that I could be learning about right now, because I am working with people who want to work with me. They want to learn, they want to get somewhere, and me being able to support them and support their self-image and help them to develop that is the most important thing that I could be doing. skill set aside, it is the most important thing that I could be doing. And as a teacher, I have students who, when they first see a piece of music, right, I'm a piano teacher, that's part of what I do, they immediately say, I'll never be able to do that. I can't do that. It's too hard for me. And those statements come from their current self-image, right? The current things that they believe about themselves. And so for me to be able to say, okay, let's take a step back, let's break it down, and then deconstruct the piece and then construct it again with them, it changes their self-image and it changes their beliefs about themselves and what they can do. And it's honestly my favorite thing about being a teacher is helping people to get where they want to go, to progress, to grow. And it's not only about growing the skill set, it's about growing the person. It's helping them to expand and sort of get past the limits that they've placed on themselves to be more of who they want to be, of who they were created and called to be. And so it is doable. And helping people to see a different future, to rethink what's possible for them. Maybe it's learning this piece of music. Maybe it's trying something new, right? Me helping them in this way with music will transfer later when they want to do something differently, right? I really believe that. This idea of reaching a goal, maybe it's changing your personal style, right? All of these skills, all of these things will transfer because it's the self-image. And I know that performance is performance, and it's a self-image that is at the root of all performance. So one of the things that really helped me in understanding like the self-image, and maybe you say, well, maybe I don't have the best self-image, I don't think this is possible for me, right? There are these limiting self-beliefs that we have, so what do we do about it? And the concept of visualization has really helped me. And of course, we hear about Olympic athletes doing it, successful business people, but visualization is open to everyone. And it's just imagining, what could this look like? What could this feel like? And just mentally, it's almost like when you have a dream and it's being in a new space and you're like, oh, wow, this is overwhelming. But then, the more you think about it, the more it becomes comfortable to you. And so that's what visualization is doing. It's putting yourself in that scenario before you even get there so that you're more comfortable in doing it. And so visualization is really, really great where you can introduce that, maybe it's a new style change. Maybe it's changing up your home. Maybe it's adopting new habits. What could going to the gym look like this week? What could a healthy meal look like this week? And just starting to think about it, right? Where you're just introducing that thought, that neural pathway in the brain. And so not only visualization, but also the concept of affirmations. And I really never appreciated affirmations before doing all this reading and this research, because affirmations, they are another way of working on one's self-concept, of doing the shadow work. And these come in the form of statements, of declarative statements. I am calm. I am worthy. I am financially literate. Things like that, where even if it isn't true about yourself quite yet, you're building in that new thought. You're building in that habit. You're practicing building this belief about yourself. Maybe it's something you want to change, something you want to work on. But basically, the thoughts we have about ourselves are neural pathways. And if we have a thought that keeps coming over and over and over again, it's because we're super comfortable with it. And our brain, our mental circuit, has really taken that pathway time and time and time again. And so it's like, when I'm looking at a document in my Mac, I have like a recent folders tab. And it's the documents that I've looked at and gone through most. And our brain has something similar to that also. The things we think about the most, we're going to build into our wiring. And they're going to be, they can be permanent unless we do something differently. And so by saying an affirmation, you're building in a new pathway, and it needs to be practiced. It needs to be built in mentally as a habit in our mind. And I'm going to link some of the resources that I've been reading that have to do with our neurochemical makeup, neuroplasticity. It's great. It's really great stuff. But the point is this self-image, this confidence, growing in your belief about yourself, it's a practice. It's a skill. And some people don't like to say these affirmations, right? They just can't bring themselves to say it. I would just say go ahead and try. Any habit will take 21 days to stick in the brain, so it takes time. But also, why don't you ask yourself a question? What if I did this? Let's see what happens if I do this. Can I try? What happens if? Let's give it a go. And you take this pressure off of yourself to show up perfectly, and you do it more as an experiment. I had a meeting with a friend who is considering a big business risk. And, in my head, I think I've adopted more cautionary practices. I think it's a habit that I sort of gained in academia. And I really appreciated her just saying, I'm just going to give it a try. Let's just see what happens, and just having a more flexible approach to this decision making. I really appreciate it. And it's something that I want to do more of myself, because I think we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And I know I put a lot of pressure on myself, and just reframing things to be less serious, to be more of an opportunity, more of a gift, right? It's a gift for me to work for myself. It's a gift that I get to work with students, and it's a gift to have people who want to work with me. Looking at it as an opportunity, as a gift, makes everything a lot easier. And so I would say visualization helps. Thinking about building a self-concept, thinking about asking questions. What's the next best step? Not putting so much pressure on yourself is the beginning of looking at performance differently, of making decisions a little differently. And I think it relieves pressure all the way across, from shifting from people pleasing to am I honoring myself, from gaining other people's approval and validation to really saying I know who I am and really trusting in that. And I think that's all the difference, and that's really something I want to continue doing myself as a skill and as a habit I have to practice on myself. It's not automatic for anyone. I think some people are just better at keeping themselves accountable and choosing the right pathways in the brain of thought. And I'll talk more about that in a future episode. But I really hope this helps you in thinking about performance and thinking about your self-image and thinking about where you want to go, because the biggest support that you need is your own. And that is the key lesson that I have learned the past 10 years, is really building in yourself a belief so strong that you are able to choose what is best for you and not rely on other people for all of those things. So just a little recap, your self-image is the key to being a happy and healthy performer. Your performance is not your identity. Your identity sculpts your performance. Your self-image is made up of the beliefs that you have about yourself. The beliefs you have about yourself can be changed scientifically, neurochemically. It's a choice. And that realizing that life is a gift, performance is a gift, the ability to be a part of other people's lives, the ability to shape one's own life, the ability to have this freedom is a gift. Please rate and review this episode. Let me know any gems that really stuck out to you. We'll see you in the next episode.